If you've watched much NASCAR content lately, you've seen the claim. Shane van Gisbergen's technique is illegal. NASCAR is going to ban it. He's found a loophole nobody else has. It's everywhere, and it gets a lot of clicks. It is also completely false. There is no rule against what Shane van Gisbergen does. There has never been a proposal to ban it. NASCAR has not investigated it, has not issued a bulletin about it, and has not penalized him for it once in 4 seasons and 8 Cup Series victories. And when you understand what he's actually doing with his feet, you'll see why banning it would be impossible. Because you cannot write a rule telling a driver which order to press pedals in. But the truth is far more interesting than the myth. What van Gisbergen does isn't a loophole, it's a lost skill. One that used to be common in NASCAR decades ago, that the sport quietly abandoned, and that he brought back and turned into an art form. So let's actually explain it. What heel and toe really is. The clutch trick even other Supercars drivers call his real edge, and the honest reason nobody in the Cup garage is rushing to copy him. Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. Let's clear the legality question in about 30 seconds, because it genuinely is that simple. Van Gisbergen isn't running different equipment, same pedals, same transmission. His car goes through the same technical inspection as every other Chevrolet in the field, before and after every race. Nothing physical about the number 97 is unusual. What's different is the order in which he uses his own feet. That's it. And there is no mechanism in any rulebook, in any form of motorsport, for regulating that. You can ban a part. You can ban a setup. You cannot ban a driver from braking with the right foot instead of the left. And here's what settles it. He isn't the only one doing it. Brody Kostecki has used the same technique in Cup competition. Will Brown has spoken openly about it on a NASCAR podcast. If this were a loophole NASCAR wanted closed, it would not have survived multiple drivers using it publicly, for years, with in-car cameras pointed at their feet. So what is he doing? Let's take it properly, because most explanations you'll find online get it half right. Start with the normal NASCAR method. For roughly 3 decades, Cup drivers have braked with their left foot. That became standard once transmissions arrived that didn't need the clutch for gear changes. The left foot had nothing else to do, so it moved to the brake. At an oval that makes perfect sense. Sit in top gear, keep the throttle pinned, modulate speed with the left foot. Van Gisbergen does something completely different. He brakes with his right foot, the same foot that operates the throttle. And to manage that, he uses heel and toe. The name describes it well enough. He presses the brake with the ball or toe of his right foot, and at the same time, rolls the side or heel of that same foot across to blip the throttle. Braking and revving, simultaneously, with one foot. Why bother? Because of what it does to the downshift. When you drop a gear while braking hard, the engine and the wheels are suddenly turning at mismatched speeds. If you don't correct for that, the mismatch snaps through the drivetrain and unsettles the car. And in a rear-wheel drive stock car, that means the rear wheels lock or skip. Blipping the throttle at the exact moment of the downshift matches the engine speed to the wheel speed, so the gear change happens seamlessly and the car stays balanced. And that leaves his left foot free for something else entirely, the clutch. And this is the part almost nobody explains, and it's the genuine heart of the matter. Because heel and toe on its own isn't the edge. Practically every Supercars driver in Australia can heel and toe. What separates Van Gisbergen is what his left foot is doing on the clutch pedal while all of that is happening. His fellow Supercars driver Will Brown put it plainly on Corey LaJoie's podcast. He pointed out that everyone back home right foot brakes and heel and toes. That part isn't special. What's special, in Brown's words, is that Shane does a really good job at how he modulates the clutch. The New Zealand racing legend Greg Murphy explained the mechanics beautifully. Murphy pointed out that Van Gisbergen heel and toes while also manipulating the clutch pedal, and by doing that avoids something NASCAR drivers fight constantly on road courses, rear wheel hop. Murphy described the normal problem. A Cup driver enters a corner with the left foot braking, changes down, blips the throttle, and if that match is even slightly off, the rear locks up. Van Gisbergen sidesteps that entirely. By feathering the clutch, partially disengaging it for a fraction of a second, he can let the rear wheels roll freely instead of being dragged by the engine. His own description of why he does it is refreshingly blunt. He uses the clutch to control the rear locking. So instead of hoping his downshift is perfectly matched, he simply removes the engine from the equation at the critical moment. The car stays settled, the rear stays planted, and he can brake later and rotate the car harder than the driver next to him. So why does he have this and almost nobody in the Cup garage does? The answer is entirely about what each of them grew up driving. Australian supercars run a locked rear differential, meaning both rear wheels are forced to turn together, which makes the car genuinely reluctant to rotate through a corner. Drivers there don't learn clutch modulation because it's clever. They learn it because without it, the car simply will not turn. As Brody Kostecki put it, the overwhelming majority back home brake with the right foot, and if you don't really make it. Van Gisbergen has been doing this since he was a kid. His own explanation of the fuss is almost funny in how casual it is. He says he's always right foot braked and heel and toed, that it's simply what he grew up doing, and that to him it's completely normal. He's a 3-time Supercars champion with 80 wins in that category. He didn't invent a trick to beat NASCAR, he just brought his native language with him. And now here's the detail that flips this entire conversation on its head, and it's the reason the illegal framing is not just wrong but backwards. Heel and toe is not foreign to NASCAR. It used to be standard here. Cup stars of earlier eras, Ricky Rudd, Bill Elliott, Rusty Wallace, worked road course magic with exactly this footwork. The in-car camera angle pointed at the pedals, the one that made Van Gisbergen famous in 2023, used to be a common broadcast shot precisely because drivers did this. The sport moved away from it. Transmissions changed, the clutch stopped being necessary for gear changes, ovals dominated the schedule, and left-foot braking took over. The skill didn't get outlawed, it got forgotten. So what Shane van Gisbergen is actually doing is not exploiting a gap in the rulebook, he's practicing a technique NASCAR itself used to be built on, at a moment when the schedule has added more road courses than ever. And the most telling evidence of all is how the drivers themselves talk about it. Nobody in that garage is accusing him of cheating. What they say is that it's too hard and takes too long to learn. Christopher Bell told NBC Sports he wouldn't even know where to begin. Another Cup driver said figuring it out would take until his retirement to get even 10% as good. That's not the language of drivers who think a rival is breaking the rules. That's the language of professionals acknowledging a skill they've decided isn't worth the years of rewiring it would take. So why does the myth keep spreading? I think it's simple. His advantage on road courses has, at times, looked genuinely impossible, pulling away by nearly a second a lap. When something looks that far beyond what everyone else can do, he must be cheating, is an easier explanation than he spent 20 years learning something they didn't. But let's finish with the honest limitation, because this is where the myth really falls apart. If Van Gisbergen had some illegal advantage baked into his car, it would help him everywhere. It doesn't. All 8 of his Cup wins have come on road courses. On ovals, where you're in top gear, flat out, and there are no downshifts to manage, the entire technique is close to irrelevant. There's nothing to heel and toe. And that is exactly why, as we sit here with 2 races left in the regular season, he's sitting 16th in the standings, clinging to the final chase spot, and running extra Truck Series races just to buy himself oval laps. A driver with an unfair advantage does not spend his Saturday afternoons racing for 0 championship points to learn a track. That's just a very good driver, working extremely hard on the one thing his brilliant footwork can't fix. So now I want to hear from you. Now that you know what he's actually doing, do you think more Cup drivers should invest the time to learn heel and toe, or are they right that it's too big a rewire for a handful of road courses a year? And why do you think the "it's illegal" story spread so far in the first place? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.